Hey, AfterBuzzers, we are back for Season 4 of Orange is the New Black. This is Episode 1, Work That Body For Me, and stick around for Episode 2, Power Suit. I keep wanting to say pantsuit.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Got
Okay, I'll stop right there.
That's all I could do.
All right, well, it's good. It's good to be back, AfterBuzzers. Orange is the New Black. We're back for Season 4.
Woo. Can you believe Season 4?
I cannot believe it.
Wow, I know.
The show is maturing. It's like senior year.
Yeah.
Before we get there, let's introduce everyone. I am Scott Moore. You can find me on Twitter at sman80, and to my left are these beautiful ladies.
Hey guys, I'm Sterling Cates. You can find me on Twitter at Sterling Cates.
Hello guys, I'm new to the panel, so I'm so excited to be joining these two lovely hosts. I'm Kanika Lal. Follow me on Twitter at Kanika Lal.
Woo woo! So excited.
Yes.
Yeah, so we can dig right in. I don't even know why I said pantsuit. I must have had some election and Hillary Clinton on my mind. I don't know. I'm just getting far off.
Same thing. Power suit, pantsuit.
Power suit,
Very
pantsuit.
similar. Yes.
But we started with Episode 1, and I don't know what you guys thought, but I loved. Basically, we started right where we left off at the end of Season 3.
Yeah, didn't skip a beat at all.
Which I think is actually really good.
Yeah.
I love when shows do that. It kind of you're just taken right back into it.
Right, because I was nervous starting Season 4 because it's been a whole year
Yeah.
since we did this. You know what I
been.
mean?
Yeah.
What have you guys been up to?
And yes, and that's what I was saying off camera. I'm like,
Exactly.
I'm a bit rusty. I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember all the character names
Yeah.
and getting back with it and think what happened at the end of Season 3.
But because, they did have that little recap before you start, which
yes,
was very helpful.
very helpful.
But when they dive
The
right
Cliff's
back
notes.
into it, I was just like, oh, okay, now I don't even have to try to remember what happened. It just felt really natural.
Continuing story, I totally agree. I was
Yeah.
going through my notes shit, I'm gonna forget, but I'm so happy, recap me, so it was good.
Totally.
Yeah, no, so that definitely helped. And what did you think overall, just of your thoughts of starting out with this season and this very first episode? I don't know if I'm giving it away, but have you all seen any further than the first 2 episodes?
No, we've
we're
only
gonna
seen the
be
first
good.
2.
You're gonna be very good.
Watch each week, because
Okay.
then we're gonna get too confusing and do
Yeah.
spoilers for the viewers.
Yes, I know,
so.
and we and it just happens. But I
know.
personally also just like to stick with it too, because I
Yeah.
feel like you're kind of progressing with these recaps. So I've only seen the first 2 as well.
With a show like this, there's so many characters that are being followed that have really in-depth storylines. And, how many are there? I don't even know. But to
many.
go ahead and watch and pretend like you haven't is probably the hardest thing ever, because it's like, oh my God, there's 80 people to keep up with. So no,
There's
you
a
can
whole
count
new-
on me just being right on track with everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole new group of inmates now, so it's like,
Right.
forget about all the characters we know now.
Exactly.
There are new stories to learn.
Yeah, just when we were getting to know the old
Right.
ones, it's like,
Exactly.
there's some new ones.
Well, and that's kind of the thing is we were kind of just mentioning before we came on camera about sort of the show is maturing. This is the 4th season, like the senior year, and now you're seeing like the freshmen come in. You're seeing the new group of prisoners come in, and you're seeing a whole new group of cast members, and just getting to know all these new people, new storylines. And the show itself has matured as far as the
Yeah.
writing and sort of the direction we're going in, and the fact that we've really branched away from the initial what the show was about, with Piper and her life trying to get out of that waspy life and deal with prison, and see how she's changed throughout these past couple seasons, and
Yeah.
her on again off again relationship with Alex, and all like you said, all these
Yes.
other characters that are in there
Right.
now.
And a lot of the cast members.
It's matured.
Yeah, I would watch a lot of the interviews, and they're like, season 4 is probably the darkest season as of yet. Wow.
Already on that track after the first episode.
episode was kind of more comedic, in my opinion. I think
Yeah.
a lot more relief. But then as we get going, the second episode, I could tell this is going to be deep, because they bring up so many political references, which we'll all get into later on.
Yes,
right?
they do. Well, I'm going to be, and I know a lot of people out there are going to totally disagree with me, but I was, in a way, and I know this sounds horrible, a little underwhelmed with the first episode, because I was starting to think, and I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to hate me, but it just felt like, and you have to do this in the first episode, kind of get everybody back on board again. But I was kind of thinking, okay, what are we going to do now? Who's the evil, crazy character? What's going to happen? Because we've had so many things that have built up to this point, and I felt still a little bit underwhelmed. That was just me. I felt
I've heard
a
that
little
from
underwhelmed.
a few people. But I think just having watched the first and second episode, I thought the first episode was more exciting for me than the second episode.
Oh, really? Why is that?
I don't know. Well, I think maybe I was just excited that the show was back,
The
so
show.
my like level of excitement was already
Probably,
was
yeah.
already high. But I found it interesting that my opinion on all of the characters has changed. Every single character,
Oh, yes.
how I felt about them in season 1, 2, and 3 is completely different than how I feel about them now. And I
so
was
right.
such a Piper hater at the end of last season, and
Well, I
I'm
think
still
we
a
all-
Piper hater.
yeah, I
I'm
think
still
we
I'm
all
a
were.
Piper hater, but I
Yeah.
loved her the
Yeah.
whole first 3 seasons. And I'm like, you're getting a little bit to my you're getting
But
my nerves.
everything I've read online is saying the same thing.
Yeah.
No,
too,
you're
so-
right. And I tried not to look too closely because I don't want to get those spoiler alerts.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
like, okay.
Yeah.
But so just kind of diving in, because I know
Yeah.
also we have less time and we have to jump into the second episode. Again, now everyone knows we're going right into the second episode.
Yeah.
So in case we slip or say anything, please forgive us.
Yeah.
But we're
Be
at
nice.
least rolling right into it. So yeah, so basically what I was saying is that we opened right up with them all in the water. All the ladies have escaped, and I love that first opening scene too with Lolly, just
Yeah.
happening to do the little walk by the greenhouse,
Yeah.
the perfect timing. You know, sees Aiden in there, joking, trying to take out
yeah, I love how
Alex.
she's like kicking the Aiden,
Yeah.
that was his name, right?
Yeah.
Kubra's hitman. And then
Yeah.
she's like, all right, so you want to go to the lake?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so casual. I love that shift. She's such a comedic relief.
I really like Alex and Lolly's relationship
I
do
now
too.
because it wasn't that way. I mean,
No,
obviously
last
Alex was
season.
very paranoid of Lolly and
And
thought
Lolly
that
was
she
very
was the hitman.
paranoid
Yeah.
at the same time. So you had these two paranoid characters not really trusting each other.
I loved that Alex thought that Lolly was after her the whole
Yeah.
time, but really Lolly just saved her life, and now
Right.
she's like, "Want to go swimming? Like,
Yeah.
let's do this." And now they're like besties, basically.
And
I
then
love
you
that.
see that whole paranoid thing with Lolly about, you know, she's just, again, totally off base, talking about the NSA and was it like the 112-acre parking lot or whatever that was,
That-
just for the
I
cars.
read that was a true fact.
That is a
too.
true
Yeah.
fact. That is a true fact.
I thought that was interesting.
I
was
know.
like, damn, that's
Yeah.
a lot of space.
I love
That's
the
a lot of
way
space.
she just rants and says the most craziest
Yeah.
lines, but I feel like her and Crazy Eyes are the two characters who know how to deliver their lines
Yeah.
so well. Like if anyone else said Lolly's lines, they wouldn't come out as funny as when
Yeah.
she says it. She's a good actress, obviously.
Yeah, no, it's
But
a lot of fun.
She also
watching her.
went there with the Cosby line. Do you guys remember
Yes.
that? That
Yeah.
was I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Great reference.
She went there, yeah. And you were kind of talking about Piper. You know, when we see her come back and she's just acting like she's, you know, gangsta with an A.
With an A.
Oh my gosh, I
And-
was like, kill me. I think I'm gonna turn this
like,
off.
So over the top, thinking she's just the biggest, you know.
A little pompous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that? As we were going along with this episode, I started to feel like, oh, it's this facade. At first, I really thought she was believing it from kind of last season when she was, you know, running her business and everything. But
Yeah.
then watching this episode, I thought she kind of feels like she's trying to make herself believe it. And it's sort
That's
of a
what it is.
facade.
She doesn't believe it yet
Yeah.
until she has the approval of other people
Right.
saying, "Oh, I heard things."
She's so desperate for
Yeah.
that power and
Mm-hmm.
that attention. It's too much.
It is.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of nauseating to watch her be this.
But it is kind of funny because
person.
she's like this white blonde.
Yeah, I know, trying to act like that.
It's
But
like, okay,
it's
let's
like-
how you have it.
Yeah, but the new inmates believe that she's the woman in charge.
Well, and that's the thing
when
that's so
Flocka tells them.
right. That's what's cool about watching
Ironic.
this is to see this whole change from when she was the new one, and now that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Sort of the show maturing, and we've moved episodes. Is like now she's the one that's been there, and she knows what's going on, or pretends to know what's going on, and then you have these newbies coming in.
Right.
So it's interesting to watch this dynamic
Yeah.
completely.
And Chang also called her
Changed.
out too in
Yeah.
the beginning.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you
She
remember
said,
that?
"No
She
one
was-
knows who you are, Thug
Yeah.
Life,"
Yeah.
or whatever it was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was so funny. But in the show, there is just such a power struggle with everyone, whether it's higher up or within the inmates
Mm-hmm.
or inmates overall or the smaller groups within the inmates. It's like everyone is struggling for power no matter
Right.
at what level.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and trying to find their place and where they fit into
Right.
all these different power structures, and that's like life in general.
Yeah, it's
You know,
just
that's
so
like the everyday-
confined, obviously,
Yes.
in this tight space.
Exactly, where they don't have, they can't just get. Well, they attempted to get away, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I mean, this was, I thought, just a really great way to get back into it. We're seeing about the overcrowding because of these new inmates coming in and trying to find the right space, and then of course you throw in Judy King, this
Yeah.
famous, aka like the Martha
Martha
Stewart
Stewart
type.
person
yeah.
that comes in, and you're seeing also the way Caputo's having to deal with all that,
Yeah.
and the favoritism and all the weird kind of stuff going on with that. What did you all think with?
I mean,
how that played out?
it gives you a perspective of. I mean, obviously the whole show is behind the scenes of a prison life. But what happens when a famous person goes to prison? I mean, what
Right.
if these kind of conversations do happen in real life when so many of these Hollywood celebrities have done the same thing? So
Yeah, yeah.
interesting perspective. funny thing.
I thought it was funny because working in my own line of work, you deal with talent and other people, and you're thinking, oh, the special treatment. Like all of a sudden, like she's the special treatment person. But I just thought it was funny, that whole thing with having Loose Check back there, and they're all having their hangout sesh and chatting. It was kind of funny, but very realistic, I thought.
Yeah.
It's obviously the very beginning of her being there. She hasn't interacted with the other inmates as much, but I just see that blowing up, her getting all the special treatment, and I loved Pusey's face when she was about to stay in her bunk with her. That was, I think that might have been my favorite part of episode 1. Is that bad? I thought I was so entertained by how starstruck everyone in the prison was of this Martha Stewart type character.
Yeah, it was really, really funny.
Even Caputo was starstruck.
I know.
He's like, hey, I met you earlier.
Yep.
Yes, you shouldn't be in here.
Yeah.
But she doesn't seem like the type who is going to hold that over other inmates. Maybe she is. Maybe I'll be surprised. But she seems so far down to earth so far.
I don't know. I have
that
my
will
doubts.
be an interesting twist.
I have my doubts about that.
All.
So, like you were saying about Crazy Eyes, we're talking about with Lolly and Crazy Eyes. What did you guys think of that interesting dynamic that she had with Maureen? I finally realized, I didn't realize her last name was Cucudio.
Yeah,
It's like the Phil Collins and like Susudio. Like I just wanted to sing it in my head, like another song that nobody wants to hear me sing. But
well, I never thought we'd meet someone crazier than Crazy Eyes.
Right.
well, that was the thing that I loved, was the fact, that here's this moment where finally I was really hoping she was going to have this legit kind of love affair that she deserved. And then to find out that Maureen's actually crazier than she is.
And that Crazy Eyes was able to be smart enough to get out of that situation. Because I was nervous where it was headed, because she was getting the scary look on her face. We're not leaving ever.
Yeah,
it was for her to make up a story to get out of it. I was pretty impressed by it, actually.
I mean, it was so crazy. Crazy Eyes was literally begging to get back
she's
in the prison.
this is too crazy even for me. I gotta get back. Because it was just, oh my God, this was her whole sort of dream, to have this relationship and, be able to have love. And then here's this person presenting this to her, and she's like, I don't have anything to do with it.
One of my favorite lines from this episode was when she's back and she's talking to Tasty, and she's like, exes, what are you gonna do? That was hilarious. It was just delivered so well.
It really was.
So
Well,
great.
just that whole scene with the whole the house, the gingerbread house, and then how she was playing that off.
And she licked
the
she's like, I'm pretty sure there's lots of lead in here.
I know, that was gross. But how she played it all out, and then she, like you said, came up with this brilliant thing with this whole improv, and they were kind of playing that whole game. The and.
I was like, good improv school.
Exactly. And they were playing that whole thing to the point where she came up with the witch and said, no, we have to get out. And the fact that she didn't get caught up in that. Yeah. Because I would have figured at that point, because that happens with anyone in general. Like, you have this relationship, and you're thinking, oh my God, we're out, we're free.
Yeah.
Here's someone that actually has an interest in me.
But dinner's at 4:45,
right,
so
then it got
I gotta
extreme.
get going.
Well, not only just relationships.
Reminded me like a retirement home. I was thinking, that's what I kept envisioning. I'm like, I have to get back to the retirement home for dinner.
Yeah,
so my grandmother used to say, it's like, it's at 4:30, I can't be late.
That's too early. She eats so early in the morning and so early. I can't do that.
She's the only one excited about that 4:30.
I know. But it's also not relationships. It's just like being infatuated with someone's work. Like, whether you're an actor or you're a writer, sometimes you just can't. The lines are blurred. So she literally, people can go crazy not really knowing what they're seeing. Like, people kind of make fun of it on television, but some people are actually out there who they think the person they're watching on TV is in real life doing the same thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think it was like a reference to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, that's what was so brilliant about these episodes, like you were saying, like the political, but also just bringing up these current events and things that people do legitimately deal with, and that's very true.
I wonder if she'll do more writing, Crazy Eyes, if she'll write more books.
I want to know what Cucudio did to get in there, because when Caputo's looking at her file later, he's just like, oh. Wow. And, but they never say what it was.
They never say what it was, and I was wondering that too. That's something that we're going to find out later on this season that's going to be sort of a big...
There's got to be something.
A big thing.
There's got to be something big.
Something, right.
He was like almost impressed. Like, he smirked and let her off so easily.
Yeah.
So you wonder what it could have been.
He was almost impressed, which I found was weird. But also, she just saw a bunch of porn on his camera. Right. She's like, I don't know, a Kardashian? That was hilarious too.
Yeah, so, I mean, that to me was a really interesting part of this episode as well. And, but going on from that, what else do we have going on this episode? We still had the new COs that were coming in. What was the, I always call them PIS for short.
Yeah.
Not Pennsatucky, because that's
Piscatelli.
Piscatelli.
Yeah, so it's like
I
close.
love Piscas.
It's like, why are
Yeah.
these names so similar?
That's true.
You know,
they
we
brought
had-
in the big guns.
They brought in the big guns this time around.
Would you
and
guys like this new guard? I mean, he's going to be a prominent character.
I think
There's a soft side to him.
Well, I think we're going to learn a lot about him as well. There's going to be, and that's the fascinating thing about the show is you kind of look at them from the surface and you think, oh, it's going to be completely different than what it turns out to be. So I'm really kind of interested. And again, all the shades of gray, the different layers, because you saw Caputo from season 1. You're like, oh, he's such a jerk.
Yeah.
And he's disgusting and gross. And then you dig a little deeper and you find out, oh, there's a really good side to him.
Right.
And you move to season 3 and now you see him here at season 4. Like, how is he going to play out? What side of his character are we going to see in this season?
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting because he's been there since the beginning.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, even in this first episode, you see both sides of him again.
Yeah, you
that
do.
he cares
Yes.
about what happens there, but also,
Yeah.
you know, things that he sweeps under the rug because he's
Right.
powerful now. So
Right. Right. And
because
seeing,
he's the warden and he's
exactly,
got,
kinda
you
see
know,
both
or he
sides.
calls himself that
the
anyway.
warden, yeah. Oh God! But the other great thing is seeing that whole corporate run, which again is a legit thing that's going on.
Right.
Is that this is an industry? This is a business. Prisons are big business.
Yeah.
The prison industrial complex didn't get that from nothing. I mean, that employs a lot of people. That makes big money. And
Making a murderer is the biggest example of kind of corrupt it is.
As we dig along into season 2, we'll get into more detail on exactly how that breaks down. And you can see, even though it's sort of comedic, it does have the underpinnings of actual truth of like what's really happening out there. And it's really kind of sad, even though it's done in a lighthearted way.
Right.
Just to see what actually really happens in the system and recidivism and all those other things that happen with prisoners. And it's sad, but it's also fun to kind of see it in this light. And so we saw again with Caputo now kind of being the big man now, the boss. And we see the way he's sort of treating the employees. You kind of see both sides to it too, and how he's treating the prisoners. But I still think you see that good side to him too, and what really brought him here and why he stays here. And that's something that's what I love about these characters, because you see them so fleshed out that you can see that they're imperfect, but you can still root for them too.
Yeah.
Even with Piper, even as much as she got on my nerves this episode, you knew it was sort of fake, and you know that there's still
There's
that
layers,
side. Yeah,
like
there's
every
those layers,
human.
and you'll see that nobody's perfect, and there's
Exactly.
sometimes you just don't want to deal with them because they seem so dirty, but there's also that good side to them too.
Yeah.
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 So did you guys like the decapitating of the body? I mean, that was like
That was
really hard
crazy.
for Alex, I feel. She's going to go crazy after that.
I feel like that's got to come back at some point because
has
those body
to.
parts were pretty big still.
Ugh, yeah, that's gonna come back for sure.
And
let's
they're
just be
eating
honest.
that food
Ugh,
that's
so
coming
gross.
from that. So,
Oh, God. I didn't even think about that.
so that's
Oh,
pretty
shit.
gross.
That is
Well,
really
you know,
gross.
that was the sort of, that was the thing we saw was Alex basically ended up being the one kind of finishing him off. because he
That
was-
scene scared me.
Yeah.
Like, I had to close my eyes a
Yeah.
little bit when his eyes were open.
Yeah.
At first, I thought he wasn't going to be there.
Right.
When she went back
I
in,
thought, so,
I thought
the
he was
same
going to
thing
be
that you
missing.
did. I thought he was going to be alive, still, and gone. I thought the same exact thing.
But then when I saw that plant was still on the
Yeah.
tarp, like exactly how they left it,
Yeah.
it's just like he's going to be alive. He's going to kill her. Oh no.
Yeah,
I've
the
never
dark
seen-
middle of the night.
Yeah.
kind
A
of thing.
scene like that, like holding the nose and then.
Well, see, that's why
like
I
I've never
think-
seen someone killing someone else through that way.
Right.
You know? And it was so. I don't know. It was not like innocent, but it was such a like. How do I describe it? Like a way to do it when you don't want to do it, but you have to do it. That's the only way I can put it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It's like, I didn't want
She
to kill
doesn't
someone,
want to
but...
kill.
Yeah, but I have to do it. I've
You
got
know, I
to
have to
finish
do
the
it.
job.
To,
It's
yeah.
for work.
I've
you
already
know.
sent the naked picture saying,
Yeah.
that I'm dead. But
Gross.
Well,
yeah,
it's
that
sort of
was
like
gross.
that was, but she knew she had to
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now that he was alive, is like she had to kind of finish that off and for her own safety and everything. But it was such an intense scene,
Yeah.
just watching that and seeing that anguish that she had
Yeah.
doing
Right.
that. I
See,
mean, that
that's
was
what
really intense.
That's what I was thinking of earlier when you were saying this season's going to be the darkest
Yeah.
it's ever been. And you said that the episode 1 was more comedic for you, and I was like, no, it wasn't comedic for me when they killed the guy and chopped him up into a bunch of pieces.
I guess Lolly kind of lightened it up.
she did. She totally did.
Even Frida.
Yeah.
Oh.
I found her very entertaining.
I'm glad Alex had, first of all, she had
Yes.
people backing her up. That was such a nice
because she needed that. But yeah, Frida had some of the best lines of the whole episode
Yeah. besides
Ollie. I mean, it was like the murder math.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was, she's like, I've never done it before, but that's just basic murder.
Yeah, but if I was, you know, not 1 and 6 feet, you know, just 6 and 1 feet, you know, and
so good.
everything's already turned, the soil, and it was just that was like, oh, and then playing the Papa Roach song.
Yeah.
At the end, I was like, oh my God.
Good.
I
That was
love
so
that.
good. I was like jamming out a little bit. When they were
I
doing
was
that.
too, and I'm like, oh.
I want to know how many bodies are in that garden because Frida
Oh
knew
my
what
God,
she was
that's such a
doing.
good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, so she, you know,
She's done that before
She's done
in
that
that garden,
before.
I bet you.
But yeah, so I mean that was brilliantly done with that
Yes.
song and just the way they handled it, even though it was kind of gross watching
Yeah,
that
I know.
happen.
Definitely.
And like you said, there were so many big that's gonna have to come up, like something like a
Well, it was like a
arm or
whole
a
leg.
something. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Something's gonna
Yeah.
like stick out or something's gonna come up.
I mean,
Yeah.
do you think Kubra might even come back too? Because he might even not believe. Who knows?
Well, and that was sort of one of my things when they're doing the whole texting and the body and the little
can't believe you bought
dead
it.
girl porn and all that. But I was like, at some
That was
point,
gross.
he's gonna want to either talk to him
Yeah.
or he's gonna expect him to come back. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like any other book or movie or anything that you
Right.
watch where someone's involved and then they're killed off. And like, of course, it's gonna come back.
Yeah.
It's just when is that gonna happen?
Absolutely. Well,
So obviously this is only a reprieve and it's going to get more intense. So I kind of go back to what you guys were saying, what we've been seeing online about how it's going to be a very dark season. But hopefully that dark comedy that
But
the
hopefully
show
the
is
best
known
one.
for. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
do
it's
a
known
good
for.
balance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, any other final thoughts? I mean, there was a lot of stuff there. I know we didn't really
Little
touch
stuff.
about Red.
Well,
with
Lorna got married and she was.
Oh
Yeah.
my God! Yeah, she was.
she was very excited.
This is my happiest day, guys. Forget
Yeah.
about the damn lake.
It kind of goes back to her from the beginning.
Yeah.
That reminded me of her season 1, 2, with the whole obsession of being married and.
Well, we know that she has an obsessive personality with whatever.
Right.
So, I mean, it made sense for sure that this was something.
Right.
But I mean, if she did just get married, which she did, she has every right to be excited.
Hey, that's exciting for a prisoner to have sex
Yeah.
on a getting
Totally,
married. You can't have that.
But I think it was just amping her up that no one cared. So she
Yeah.
was like, "Listen to
I
me.
know.
Like this matters. This is cooler than you swimming in a."
But it is funny though because
lead-filled lake.
her whole obsession, and now it's sort of like happening, and nobody cares. And I love that whole scene with her with Alex.
Yeah.
And she thinks that Alex doesn't care, but obviously she's
Oh,
totally
yeah.
And then she's
distracted.
like, "Okay, what's his favorite color?"
Yeah. And then she was like,
"Why do you do this to me?"
Yeah. That was great.
That was
funny.
hilarious.
So you have that, and you also had Red kind of dealing with this whole thing too of the having to be up earlier and with breakfast. She has to get up at 3:30 in the morning now for
I
this
know.
early shift because of the prisoners, and then she's dealing with the snoring bunkmate. What was her name? It was like.
Dwight.
Yeah,
Oh, Dwight,
yeah,
okay.
because I was thinking, is it White? Because that's the thing too. Like I was saying to you
Dwight,
guys,
I'm
it's like
just assuming that's her
Dwight,
last
White. Like now it's White and Red, and but that's the thing when you get all these new characters, like we were saying earlier, it's
yeah.
hard to kind of remember everybody. But
I
yeah,
know.
dealing with the snoring and like how can she get rid of that? And I was thinking last night too, I had to deal with someone with the loud music, and I was like, I just
Oh,
want to go to sleep,
no.
so I can understand. I probably snore too. So
Well, speaking of her, there are new roommates. I mean, Piper gets a new one, and even what we call her Tova now.
Yeah, we should
Cindy.
just call her Tova.
And that interesting racism between a Muslim and a Jew. I thought that was really interesting. We get more of that, I think, the next episode.
yes,
two,
we do,
but-
and that was also brilliant too with some of her lines, like like you're really from Karachi, that was great.
Yeah, I wrote that down. That was my favorite
Yes.
line. That cracked me
Yeah,
up.
the way she delivered it and everything.
The way she delivered it.
But
yeah.
it does go back to what we were saying. It deals with real life and real issues of people and different backgrounds and everything that's sort of out there now that people are dealing with.
Totally.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts from this first episode?
It just got me excited to watch the second one.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
my thing too is just kind of looking at the season ahead. Like, what about these people? Who's coming back?
Yeah.
What about are we going to hear from Nikki? When does
Yeah.
Sophia get out? And I know
Right.
a lot
Yeah.
of people out there have already seen the whole season.
Yeah.
What about Bennett? Like,
Yeah.
what are we going to hear about that? Because a lot of that stuff was kind of left out there. And I still, what was the old assistant warden? what was her name?
Oh, the woman.
Yes.
Oh,
I know, isn't that
God.
horrible? We're horrible guys. I know. We're rusty.
We'll
It's
get
the
it
first
for next
episode.
time, yeah.
I can looking at her face.
I know.
I know, I can
I know.
imagine.
I actually interviewed here at AfterBuzz and did the spotlight with her, and she was awesome.
crazy.
But
That's cool.
I keep thinking, like, when is she even? I want to see her come back.
Yeah.
In some way, either she gets like sort of like the Judy King thing, and
Yeah.
she's going to be in prison now. Like, I'd love to see her come back on like the other side. So there's a lot of characters. But especially Bennett, especially Nikki, that we.
I really
And
miss
Sophia.
Sophia.
And we know Sophia's going to come back, but when?
I haven't
When?
heard anything about Bennett coming back.
Right,
Matt
so-
McGorry. I haven't heard anything
Right,
about him.
and I want to know.
yeah.
Like, what,
Unless it's like a surprise or
But, like,
don't tell us if
don't
you've seen
tell
the
us, I
season.
know,
He
because
has
I know
a
people have seen it.
daughter. He needs to know.
But it's also that weird just disappear. Like, we haven't gotten that resolution. Like, when
Right.
are we going to get that
He
resolution?
just drove off, which was so out of his character.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't an enclosure at all.
No.
And nothing was going on with him as a person. I'm trying to think.
Like,
Well,
you mean his other
with
acting gigs?
Matt McGorry's
How to
like,
Get Away with Murder. Isn't that
yeah,
finished?
but that's like
now.
off season.
Still, I want to see what's going to happen with these people, and I want to
Yeah,
know where
totally.
Nikki, like these people that, especially Bennett, that's just
Yeah.
left off, and there's a lot there that we need to kind of tie up
Yeah.
these ends. And I'm wondering when this season, when that's going to happen,
Yeah.
and how everyone's going to be involved, and how's it going to be with Judy King and all the new people. So
Yeah.
it's going to be fascinating. So, any other final thoughts? Or are we going to roll right into?
Just getting the second
Roll.
one. And
Right
anything we
into-
forgot,
'cause-
we can bring up in
Yeah,
the second
next
one.
time.
I know. So yeah. So now that we're going to start with season 4, episode 2, Power Suit. I got it right this
There
time.
you go.
Not pantsuit. I loved this episode. I thought
Yeah.
it brought all, like we were saying, like the prison industrial complex, the corporate world, the overcrowding, and all the personal issues.
Totally.
Really in a really well like thought out comedic way. Overall thoughts for this episode that you thought.
Only thing I can think of right now is I learned a lot about just like culture and tensions. Like I don't know if this is actually like a thing in real life, but the fact that they portrayed this Dominican culture and how they were so against the Mexican culture, mostly in the drug sense, the drug selling, because they think the Mexicans are taking the business. But I'm not sure if that actually happens in real life. Like in Indian culture, we certainly have differences between Pakistan and,
Right.
different religion. Well, I mean, for the most part, India is a really safe country, but there are still tensions
Of
between
course.
different regions.
Yeah, absolutely.
South, north, whatever. So it's the same with this culture, which I thought was interesting.
And
I learned.
groups and we got a little bit more of Maria's backstory,
Yes.
Yeah.
and which was great to kind of see that. And I love the way they threaded it throughout. Kind of started when she was younger as a kid, and then moved through teenager and young adult, and that was really that was awesome to see.
That's one of my favorite things about this show is when they
Yes.
highlight individual
Exactly.
characters for a whole episode, because you
Yeah.
do want to know where they come from
Right.
and why they are the way they are and how they got there. Because people
Yeah.
like yoga or whatever,
Yeah.
it's like, why are they in this prison?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And it,
So-
and it adds that humanizing layer to know, again, sort of what we're saying is like, you can love these people, they're not perfect, and they did certain things, but what was their motivation? Why did they do
Right.
these things?
Yeah.
And with all those nuances and layers, and they're not necessarily all bad people. They did maybe what they had to do to survive, and we kind of get a better, clearer picture of what these people go through, and again, it's very enlightening and kind of depressing to see.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, just the different factions and the drug turf wars and those
Yeah.
sort of things. So
And it's interesting to see, the different crimes they did commit to get there. Like the Judy was tax fraud or whatever, but then, you have people who've killed people, you've had
Right.
drug-related crimes, that sort of stuff.
right, petty stealing and things like that.
So
yeah.
it's just such a wide range. And they're all just in there together.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
sleeping on
relate to
top
the
of each other.
characters. Like, even if you don't, like, for example, Chang, you don't really see her too often. But when you do, the first thing that came to my mind was her history. And then right there and then, even though I saw her for 1 second, I connected with
Yeah.
her immediately.
Right.
And that was that. So I think that was a genius part on Genji's.
Yeah, absolutely, and
Behalf.
and to me, that's become a bigger thing now, just in other plot devices and other shows.
Yeah.
Not that this was the first show to do that, but you start to see it now in other shows employing that same tactic. That it's become something of a very big way of storytelling.
Yeah. With Maria specifically, do we want to talk about her first? I found
Yes.
it really interesting because last season when we learned that her partner didn't want to bring their child to prison anymore because they didn't want to see their mom in prison, blah, blah. But now learning that she's in there because of him.
Yeah.
And she saved his life originally.
And he's a
when
jerk
he
to
was,
her
I
now.
know.
Yeah, and when
that
he
was
was
that
gonna,
was crushing.
Yeah.
for
Right,
that.
when she saved him when she was just a teenager, when
Yeah.
she found the drugs and threw it in
Yes.
her bedroom.
Yeah.
And then now he's doing all of this
I
to
know.
her. That broke my heart.
Me
Too. That
It
was
did.
crushing to watch that.
Yeah.
That was really sad. That's what I was saying. That when you see the motivation, see what happens,
Yeah.
and you see the way some of them were treated.
Yeah. Well, she gave up her family.
Yeah.
She gave up everything.
She gave up everything
Yeah.
for this guy,
Right.
and that's and we know that happens
Yeah.
out in the world in general, and people do that, and
Yeah.
and it kind of goes back to giving up your everything for this, and then to see him do that was just, oh my God, it was awful.
Right.
It was awful.
When she punched him when she brought the drugs back to the boxing ring, I loved that.
I know. I
That was
love that
funny.
scene too.
Yeah.
I did too. The interaction originally was nice between them. Like
It was
I thought they would have
cute,
been a
right?
cute couple, but then I
Right.
did
Yeah.
remember when he came back, like the treatment she got from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was awful.
I mean, I don't know. You have to also put yourselves in his shoes too,
Yeah.
in a way. But no, actually,
I mean,
don't
but that
know if
is
you
a
can.
conversation though. Like, should kids be in the prison? Blah blah. But that you definitely don't want to ruin that relationship
Yeah,
Well-
you
with the
can't
parent.
create distance.
That
Like,
should be the child's decision when
Yes.
it comes time. Yeah.
True.
Well, and it brought up a thing that was actually just in the paper and is sort of out there recently about there's a couple prisons out there that actually let the moms have the kids in prison with them. And
Wow.
basically, very few, but there are places, and like in upstate New York, I think is actually one of the places where.
I think I heard that.
Yeah, and so
For long periods of time.
yeah,
or?
like they actually stay with them, and they have like a daycare and everything there, but
Wow.
they basically live with them in this. It's very similar to Litchfield about the fact that they're there in a it's not a it's the same kind of setup, and these kids actually live with them, and there is dialogue and there is discussion going on now. Is this healthy for the kid to actually live
Right.
full time with the parent in prison in this kind of environment?
It's like the kid shouldn't be in prison.
No, but but they're
You know
little,
what I mean?
but they're like babies or what, and it's not like they're stuck in a cell, but they go to daycare, they do other things, but they are basically in, and the mom has a chance to interact
with
and
them.
connect with the kids.
I guess
Because it
that's
brings that up,
Yeah.
like with what's happening with Daya and everything with the baby
Yeah,
being taken away.
totally.
And that's what
Totally.
is normal. And it was interesting that this is something that's been out there, kind of out there in the news now. Is this healthy for kids and for the moms? And
Yeah.
should we just separate kids right away when they're born and live somewhere that could be unhealthy too for them?
That's
Yeah.
an interesting
we've
debate.
That is very
Yeah.
interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that
Yeah.
more.
I wonder if they'll open up that talk on the show. Who
Well, that's what I
knows?
wonder, because it just has kind of been out there in the
Because
media.
there are so many characters on this show who have the problems
Right.
with their children.
Right,
so I
and that's
wonder-
part of the issues that
Yeah.
we've seen, and that's real stuff. And like you're saying, is it any healthier for them to be in an unhealthy environment with their parent, with their dad or other relatives, or be out in foster care? And it's really a serious discussion that,
Yeah.
which again, the shows bring up.
Is it just with this? We're probably going too deep into this. But is it just with the moms that the kids are allowed to stay with, or can they also stay with the dads in prison?
That I don't know. That's a good question, and I'm sure people out there may know. But
I'm gonna have to look into
but,
this more.
Yeah,
'cause that's
I know,
very
but
interesting. I
This
never
one
knew
in
that.
particular
intrigued.
was for the mother. So if they gave birth or whatever, the kid could stay with them
Okay.
in this in this prison, and it was the same sort of situation as Litchfield.
Yeah.
It wasn't what do they call it, a low, sort
Like
of
a-
there's
right.
yeah.
I guess my only concern would be the health concerns for
Yeah.
a newborn or, a child that, maybe not immune to certain things, or the cleanliness of it, especially. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know.
I'm not really sure. to
Yeah,
be
but at the same
completely
time,
honest with
no.
you.
But I was gonna say, how is it any different than
Than
them
the
being
mom
in somewhere
being-
else? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, but it is an interesting debate, and I think
Yeah.
it's something out there that everyone, if you have any comments or anything else that people want to bring up regarding that, it's been out there right
Yeah.
now.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So, we were talking about the last episode. We know Sophia's going to be back in here. We see her wife actually come to her defense, which I also thought was really great, because they had such a sort of a rocky relationship for a while, trying to figure each other out, and to see her come to her defense and confront Caputo about it was pretty brilliant.
Well, I thought it's important to note that Gloria is
I
the
was just gonna
one
say.
who called her son to go tell
Right.
Michael.
Yeah.
Which is something that, again, has been a thread line because of the past seasons when they were having their own fights, and
Yeah.
it was nice to see Gloria have that and have her back there and
Right.
realize how important it is. Again, going back to having kids, but to have her go out there and confront him was pretty cool too.
Yeah,
It's now that
definitely.
they're that kind of place. So I'd
Yeah.
love to see what's going to happen with that in the next couple of episodes and when she's going to come out. And I think it also brings up other issues out in the news right now with transgender rights and throwing people in shoe and solitary confinement and things like that are also very important right now.
Yeah.
That this show is bringing light to.
And that also goes back to the conversation we were having about the different sides of Caputo, because we do see him have a heart sometimes, but with this situation, he just sweeps it under the rug.
Sweeps under the rug.
Right, when it is very serious. And he even, the reasoning he gives for it was almost more scary for me than him just sweeping it under the rug, because he's like, yeah, they go crazy in here and they blah, blah, and I'm like, okay, well, that's the problem. Shouldn't we be fixing that?
Well, maybe he's doing it for her protection right now. I mean, the prison's going a little bit crazy. What if there's going to be more brawls because of who she is? So maybe, who knows, he could be turning the nice guy and waiting a little while for things to settle down.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it that way because I was kind of
Just
going with
trying to
you
look at the bright side here.
No, but that is an interesting
Yeah.
perspective, because I was thinking, oh, there he is being a jerk, and like here is a really important issue.
True.
And she's there, and she shouldn't be, and
Right.
he doesn't seem to care. But you're right, there could be the other side to it. It's like maybe he's keeping her there, sort of like his favoritism with Judy King, keeping her in her business class.
Yeah,
set
seriously.
up.
At this point, she probably has more space. She probably
Right.
gets her all the food, because now they're fighting over food. They're fighting over showers, all these other resources. She
Yeah.
probably gets her own shower.
I know. She set up her own salon down there.
At least that's what I'm
That's
thinking in
what
my
we're
head. But
hoping.
maybe
We're hoping,
we
yeah.
don't know
Solitary
the
confinement.
we don't know the conditions down there. I'm kind of scared for when she comes out, because we don't know what she's going to look like. We don't
Right.
know what's going to have happened to her.
Right, and how long has she been there? Has she been able to
Right.
get, the medication she needs? How has she
Right.
been treated there? Like you said, you're in solitary confinement, and it really does mess with your head.
Yeah.
So you're talking about crazy out there. You make people crazy by being in
Totally.
solitary confinement.
And they never show us down there, so we don't know what's happening.
I know.
Yeah.
Which I actually think is really great. It's sort of that keeping that distance there, not knowing really how bad it is down there. It's sort of just left to your imagination.
It raises the
True.
stakes and the tension
It
on what
does.
that place is.
Totally.
Yeah.
It does. But, going back to the prison and the overcrowding, we talk about them now, Caputo saying we have to do porta potties, and I was like, ugh.
And they have to
God.
clean it up.
And they have to clean up
on
the
top of
porta
it.
potties.
That's
and
harsh.
I'm just thinking about like the Andy Gump, things out here in Los Angeles. You just think of the construction sites, and you think of those just nasty porta potties, or a day like today where it's like super hot, and you're like, ugh.
Gross.
Like, what a horrible
I
job they have to
know.
do.
That's
Yeah.
so true.
But then you see him go to this corporate meeting, and it was just so depressing. Even though it was dark comedy, and it was just, we get the tax breaks if we,
Yeah.
can hire veterans, and if we hire veterans that have been out of work for a year, we get more tax break. And then you're thinking about, this is real stuff, and these are what real companies are dealing with. Like, okay.
And then we're
if
going to
they're
put our veterans in these shitty cabins.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right?
mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's a good way to
Well,
treat
then
our veterans.
exactly.
I
They're
know.
like, well, the more injured, the bigger tax break we get if they're in crutches or wheelchairs. And, it was just like, oh my God, this is so depressing.
And then if they shoot someone because of their problems with PTSD,
Yeah.
they're already in jail.
They're already in jail.
What? Is that a joke?
I know.
But that's the thing, is it was lighthearted, but at the same time, that's
What happens,
legitimate
the
things. And then they're
conversations.
thinking, okay, well, what do we do? Because they're kind of removed from it, this corporate world. They're up
Right.
in
Yep.
there.
Joking about it being Glitchfield or
Glitchfield,
whatever.
and-
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, and then they're like, what do we do to get the, what's the incentive if we can't pay them much money, which is like what's going on in corporate America now. We can't,
Right.
we're going to take all the money ourselves at the top end, but
Yeah.
we'll pay everyone else nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, what do we do? Free haircuts? No, that's not going to really be a big thing. Why don't we give them free housing? We have all those
Yeah.
cabins, which goes back to the gingerbread house from the first episode.
Yeah, right?
You're thinking, is
They
that where
could
they're
use
gonna,
that.
they're going to be throwing people in these type of places?
Right.
So, yeah, it was depressing, but also very realistic
Yeah.
about what's going on out there in America.
Yeah, and
in these
Caputo is
complexes.
flirting with the
Yeah,
girl,
that
and
is-
now he's got a little thing. And he goes out and buys an $1,100
Yes,
suit.
I know. Then you again seeing that side of him again, where you're like, okay, where he's like, well, it's on sale for $1,100. Oh, I'll take it.
He's so
But he
proud of
kind
himself.
of doubted that. He was hesitant. He was like, I can't afford this, but you know what? I'm the director of
Right.
human resources now. So.
Right.
So he's gonna be all Mr. Fancy
Yeah.
with his $1,100 suit. So there's a lot of like little undercurrents of change going on, and a lot of middle of the night things going on with the snoring and
Yeah.
Daya and the middle of the night like shenanigans and
Yeah.
crying
And that whole fight between the Dominicans in prison
Yeah.
and those
Right.
two girls.
I wonder how that's gonna. Oh, that was.
Well,
sad.
Gloria literally, or no, not Gloria.
Gloria,
What's her name?
Maria.
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 Obviously, she just like beat her up.
Mhm.
The way that it should have been done. But I didn't get it.
So was one
They
of
still
those
got back at her.
girls? Yeah, they did.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that the beginning, Maria was like, okay, we don't want to cause trouble. We don't want to fight, even though we are the majority now, but there's different groups, blah, blah, blah. But then when she saw what happened in the stairwell, she's like, okay, well, we need to have a more planned out execution as opposed to just acting in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like let's make
Impulse,
them know
Yeah.
that we're not messing around.
Don't
and
fool
they
with
did
us.
that.
Yeah, that's true.
But was one of those girls who did attack her in the stairwell in the first episode? Remember when Lolly called Piper over and she was like, "Isn't that girl that fell asleep on my shoulder or whatever?" I think that was one of the girls who did
think
it
so, too,
later.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm wondering who this girl is now because we don't
Which
know
one
her
now?
name.
I'm confused.
So it was one of the girls who beat up the girl in the stairwell.
Yes, from the second episode.
In the second episode. But in the first episode, do you remember when they were in the cafeteria and Lolly was with Alex and they called Piper over? And Lolly said to Piper, that girl over there, wasn't she the one who fell asleep on my shoulder on the airplane or whatever? I was just like, why is she bringing that up?
Okay, so
That's
they're
going to come
referencing
back
her.
at some
no,
point.
Interesting.
that was exactly, I was thinking that too. Yeah,
wow.
that was.
But I feel like it's going to be more than this stairwell thing. Like,
yeah.
I think that
So
they're going to develop
that's a
her
moment you could
character.
have missed.
Yeah.
Like, you
Well,
caught it because you guys are good, but
No,
I missed that.
No, but I was thinking that
The show's tricky that way,
Yeah,
you know?
it is, and sort of letting you lead that these little interactions are actually much bigger, and that even if they don't happen right away, they're going to be down the road.
Well, Lolly's also so paranoid that she probably notices all of these
Yeah.
little
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's this second episode was just really, really well done, and so much going on,
Yeah.
and so much just leading up to it.
Can we talk about Pennsatucky?
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah,
And
Coates. I was like, there
so-
was something that
Yeah,
we
yeah.
needed to talk
So
about.
I mean, like, does Coates not get it what he
Right?
did? Because
No.
even the first and second episode, he was, you know, like, why doesn't she like me? Like talking to the other guard about, oh, she, you know, maybe she's mad because our work schedules changed, blah, blah. Obviously not saying who he's talking about, but
Yeah.
like he's picking his brain about why she could possibly not be talking or be mad at him. It's
I
like
know.
he really
he's treating it
doesn't
like
get
a little love,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
a
no, he
fling,
doesn't.
Yeah.
and
he
she
doesn't
just
get
doesn't.
it.
And meanwhile, she's completely affected by it,
Of
obviously, and
course,
as she
yeah,
should be.
yeah.
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 And she's concerned about Maritza now, who has taken over her responsibility as driver with
Yeah.
Coates. So she's kind of seeing if anything's happened, if she's gone to see the Ducks or gotten ice cream or whatever. And I
Something
think
might
she's like,
happen.
I think she's slowly realizing that it was just her. Like he might not. She's confused as to why he doesn't do it to other people too.
I have a feeling she might actually fall for him though, even though he kind of was really.
You think so?
Yeah, because
Oh,
I know
hope
it's
not.
like really twisted and
Yeah.
effed up, but at the same
Well-
time,
It's just so.
I don't know why I saw like her get a little bit of a shift when she found out it could have been just her that he did it with. You know,
Yeah.
that he is starting to fall for her, but to him, in his eyes, whatever he's doing is so normal.
Right.
Yeah, well, he doesn't get it.
That's the weird.
Yeah.
There's such a huge
So-
disconnect there between him not realizing what he did was wrong, and then her being confused as to because we saw her when we saw her background. A similar situation happened to her before, but it seemed like the guys that did that to her before kind of did that with everyone.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
now she's like, why isn't he doing that
Right
with
to
everyone
everyone,
else?
because that's what she's used to.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a very sad and dark storyline,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it
it is.
happens, and it's
It happens,
You know?
exactly.
and
Ugh.
unfortunately there are people out there who don't realize that that's wrong, and that they think it's like they're right, and that's the whole thing.
Exactly. Well, on both sides, and then you have people that grow up like,
Thinking it's normal.
thinking it's normal, and that it's acceptable, and that this is what I'm supposed. As she did,
Yeah.
for so long, she just thought this is how it happens. I'm just sort of used, and it's really really sad.
It's so sad. But I love that Boo is kind of protecting her, and hopefully is gonna, because no one else
Has her back.
knows.
No.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for her to have someone to talk to.
Yes.
That, yeah, and I love their dynamic
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And again, that relationship has matured over the seasons as
Oh,
well,
yeah.
which has been really neat to watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Any other final thoughts, or are we gonna move?
Well,
into
there
any-
was one thing about Yogi, but that's like small. I guess how she felt uncomfortable being like the 1%, so to
Yeah.
speak, with Judy.
But she didn't want to turn it down.
Yeah,
Right.
like
It's
Well, it's
she
sort of
felt
the same
guilty
thing
for
with,
liking it.
Yeah, well, it's the
and
same
then
thing.
Tasty
like-
got a little taste of that life. So
Yeah, I mean that's sort of the same thing with Judy herself. You
Yeah.
know, just being
Yeah.
able to be like, okay, well, no, I mean, but if someone's going to offer you all this great stuff, like, sure, you may want to turn it down, but it's also really nice too to have it.
Yeah.
If someone's gonna say, "Oh, we'll fly you first class everywhere," all right, you get used to that
Yeah.
really quick.
But you also
true.
see the two sides of Judy already because she's really nice, but then she kind of flips. Like even in the first episode when she said, "Oh, I'll room with it, whatever," but then not the fatties or Nebraskans
Right.
or whatever. And it's like,
Right.
okay, wait, you're really not that
Right.
nice.
That's true.
You've got a
yes.
dark
Yeah, that's
side.
You know that she's got a really dark side.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to know how the season's going to go because right now I'm kind of watching and it can go way out here.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's sort of like I know it's a weather nerd thing, but it's like that hurricane of, which direction it's going to go by the end of the season, go way out here. And as we move along, we're going to see kind of where this season's going to take us.
Yeah.
And I, for one, am really fascinated because I have no idea.
Yeah.
Watching the show from the beginning, I have no idea what direction it's going to take.
It could go anywhere.
I feel like the second episode especially set up a lot of things to
did.
happen.
Yeah.
Especially with Piper kind of hiring her bunkmate to be her
Her
muscle.
security
Yeah.
That
Secret
was
Service.
But I love that her bunkmate doesn't
Take shit.
take shit from her because she's like, I'm gonna put my towel here.
She's like, get
I'm
your
gonna
own
have the
breakfast.
bottom
And she's
up.
doing the whole lift with her legs
Yeah.
and like the whole bunk bed thing.
Yeah.
And, yeah. It's like she's not going to put up with that, which I think is great.
Yeah,
But
because Piper, the last thing she needs is someone who like actually buys
yes
into
man.
her
Yeah.
shit.
No, of
Honestly.
course.
Yeah,
She's not
I
gonna
know.
buy into it.
She needs someone to defy her a little bit, but still
Yeah.
kind of be by her side too.
Yeah.
To show her toughness.
I love how she's still so scared of Red because Red was like, we should just take Piper out next time instead of give her a chance.
Oh, right.
And she's like, wait, are you serious? Or are you kidding? Because I don't know.
Yeah, so there's a lot that's happening and how it's going to be brought in and where the season's going to go. Do you guys have any predictions?
I think I just have a lot of
man.
questions.
Yeah.
Like, what's going to happen with Daya and her baby?
Her mom,
and
too,
Her
whose
mom.
boyfriend-
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was sad.
What's going to go on with this girl from the plane that Lolly talked about? Because I
Right.
feel like there's going to be
There's
something there.
definitely something there. I agree with you on that one. There's going to be a bigger role for her.
Where the hell is Bennett? Like, we have
Right,
to
that's what
get
I'm saying
these
earlier.
answers.
Like, we need the answers for this. What about, what are we going to do with Nikki if she just gone? It's like,
Yeah.
I want to have some kind of...
Right. Guys,
idea.
if out there, if you've read anything about Bennett, please tweet us and link us
Right.
because
Just
I
You have an inside
in
scoop.
general.
Yeah.
Like, in general, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Without giving away too many spoilers, because we do only watch the two at a time here, so we're not
Yeah.
getting too far ahead.
Yeah. So going back to Piper, do you guys think that she's going down a dangerous path by being so like, I'm top boss, I'm this, I'm that, instead of just kind of flying under the radar? She's really making herself known, which
Right.
I feel like could be very dangerous.
I think she's falling down a rabbit hole and someone's going to snap her out of it. That someone might be Alex or
or that new
somebody.
girl that had the 3 tattoos. She seems like she could be a potential threat.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, she's definitely... It's going to come to a culmination. It's something. It's going to happen that she's going to end up, having to deal with that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh, there's just so much.
I know. I'm trying to think what else. There's just going to be a lot of underlying racism, I feel like, in this whole series. Like, a lot of talk with that. Because there's so much more diversity so
Yeah.
far. I feel like
Which
the
is
mayor...
great because it represents,
Right.
what's really happening.
I
Real
think
stuff.
you guys made a prediction last season about Lorna's husband, how he's going to end up being crazier than her.
Mm-hmm.
I so agree with that. I think he's going to come back and do something that will push her away. That was a good prediction you guys had.
Yeah.
And I think it will reappear.
Well, and it was sort of what we're seeing her in the last episode. Just seeing her be so enamored about the whole marriage thing.
But she doesn't know anything about him.
But yeah, exactly. And
Like
then
his
at some
favorite color.
point,
Yeah.
right? So at some point, that's going to come back.
Yeah.
And sort of the same thing that we saw with Crazy Eyes is she wanted a relationship so badly. She got a little taste of another person who was kind of giving her the treatment that she had been giving people before.
Right.
And she thought, oh, this is scary. So I do think a lot of these characters are going to have to learn and figure out this is not going to work.
Yeah.
So I think marriage is going to be one of them.
There's so many things. Oh my
know.
God. I can't keep track of all these characters and the stories.
So what do you guys think next couple episodes? Any good predictions?
Well, I already know that I'm not even going to say it. Somebody dies. I already know that. It's like, it sucks that I accidentally would have spoiled it.
Ugh.
So that thing, I
Spoiler.
don't feel like saying anything because I'm pretty pissed about that, but that's all I know.
Again, just questions. Those questions. Those are the storylines that I am most curious about.
Yeah.
But I do feel like something bad's probably going to happen with Piper. Is she the one that dies? Because I don't know if I'd be upset about that.
No, but you know what is interesting that you brought that up is that she as a character is so no longer the center of this story that in a sense she could be gone and we would have so much other richness of these other characters that we wouldn't miss her in the sense that we would have happened in season 1.
Yeah.
All right, so I know it's time to wrap up. I could talk forever about the show.
We really could.
All right.
Actually.
Yeah. So we've already talked predictions. We talked about final thoughts, and I'm so glad to have you guys this.
We're glad to
be
season.
back.
I'm so glad to be back too.
I know. So fun.
So where can they find you guys?
Oh, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Kanika Lal and Instagram at You Can Have It Lal. That's LAL.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Sterling Cates.
And you can find me on, well, it's different everywhere. So find me on Twitter at SMan80. That's SMAN80. And we will be back same time next week. The next 2 episodes, 3 and 4. Season 4.
Awesome.
We're back. It's so exciting.
Yay.
Woo!
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Bye. See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.